Hi everyone! So in this presentation we're going to be looking at engagement in online learning. No, not the kind of engagement where you put a ring on it. Instead, the kind of engagement where students care about what they're learning. We intuitively know that engagement is important, but sometimes we struggle to build it or even to define it. But we know what it looks like. We can tell when a student is engaged. They care about what they're doing, they're excited to learn more. Researchers define engagement in different ways, including effort, attention, time on task. They typically measure engagement by looking at student behaviors. Are they taking notes, turning in assignments, logging in? Even going to the library can be used to measure engagement. We also use survey data. We ask students how engaged they were in a class. Though we don't have a perfect definition of engagement, we do know about its impact. Engaged learners achieve more. They feel like they learn more, and they're more satisfied with their courses if they're engaged in them. It's definitely worth the time to focus on engagement and how to build it. We tend to think of engagement in terms of only one person, the student, but there are actually several different people who are involved in the engagement process, and each one of those people is critical to ensuring that a student is engaged in their learning. The first stakeholder is, of course, the learner. There are some pre-existing factors that can predict a learner's engagement. Having parents with a high education level tends to lead to stronger engagement. Students with strong academic preparation in the early years tend to be more engaged in their learning later. Learners who know how to regulate their effort and stick with something even when it's hard tend to be more engaged. But some young learners may lack motivation and self-regulation strategies. When a student moves into online learning, they're going to need support for those things. Their teacher and their school are going to need to help them figure out how to be successful in an online classroom. We can build those coping skills by teaching them very specific strategies on how to engage in a course and how to stick with it. The key person for that, the instructor. The instructor's role is crucial in supporting students. We know that if an instructor logs into a course more, a student will log into a course more. If an instructor is supporting students by providing feedback, students will turn in more work. All of the instructor's roles are really critical in the engagement process. On the screen, we see just a few of those roles and how they might be important in the engagement process. A course designer is building content, a process facilitator is facilitating the work, an advisor is motivating one-on-one, and assessors providing feedback, and a content facilitator is a one-on-one tutor. Another stakeholder in the process in K-12 is the parent. The parent role is a unique one in K-12 online learning because it's not present in other ones as much. But the parent is really, really crucial in monitoring a student's work and helping them with time management skills, self-regulation skills, helping them to find motivation in their learning. But parents need support too. They need training in the learning management system and the types of systems that an online school uses. They need proactive communication from the school about what's going on. Parents actually really like the transparency of online learning, but they really need to understand how to use that transparency. We also have some course structures that are really showing promise in engaging learners. Now, some of these are things we see in all online classes because they just make sense. But others are things that instructors have to kind of ease into and figure out how to make it work to engage students in their courses. Online instructors who care about student engagement have to be willing to try some new things. The first structure is discussions. We see these in almost every online course, and the reason for that is that they build community. They help learners to connect to each other. Students feel like they're a part of something. Sometimes they may even log in just to participate in a discussion, even if they're really frustrated with the content. So it's important to include those discussions. And discussions also build community. Students who have a stronger sense of community have a stronger perception of learning. So if they feel connected, then they feel like they learn more. But too often, our discussions are kind of shallow. They're more of a question and answer session than they are a true collaboration. So we have to think about what strategies we might use to build collaboration. One is a rubric, just because students need to know what they need to do in order to be successful in a discussion. They need to know what a good discussion looks like. They need a strong prompt that's interesting with no right or wrong answers so that we can actually have a discussion about it. And they need facilitation. The more an instructor is involved in redirecting and modeling, the better a discussion is going to go. The second structure is collaborative learning. So this one's a little bit scary for some instructors. It's having students work together on an assignment. You're helping complete strangers to connect and work together, but that process helps them to engage in the learning. Your structure has to allow for flexibility and a variety of student needs. Here are a few options that you could try to dip your feet into collaborative learning. Peer review, where students are looking at each other's work, group products, where they're creating something together, or even a collaborative website where the whole class is building something together. These structures show promise in helping students to feel connected to the class. Another structure that shows promise is synchronous options. Synchronous is when you're online all at the same time. And so things like Google Hangouts or even Blackboard Collaborate offer us some options for synchronous learning. They could be a required part of your class or something optional that students can opt into as they need it. There are a few different options you can think about. One would be office hours, so an instructor is available for a few hours a week for students to drop in for face-to-face help. That's not face-to-face, it's on a tool. Webinar, where an instructor is actually delivering an assignment, or on demand. Sometimes a student reaches out and needs help, and putting them onto a webcam and a tool like Hangouts is the fastest way to get them that help. The fourth structure is academic challenge. We're finding that when students feel challenged, they're more engaged in the work. So we have to find that sweet spot of just hard enough. You want to avoid the busy work trap. You want to find things like problem-centered learning have been shown to be effective, and active learning to help keep that content real world. The bottom line is that engagement is really important. Without it, learners would struggle, and instructors and course designers can only do this work with support and training and time. So we need to make sure that those things happen. There's also a critical need in K-12 online learning for additional research. Thanks so much, and thanks for engaging with me in this presentation.